Hello and welcome to this episode of the Vision Rehab Podcast. My name is Steve Kelly and I'm a certified vision rehabilitation therapist, and in these podcasts we'll be discussing issues related to both vision loss and blindness. Thanks for joining me today. The month of May was Older Americans Month, and it got me thinking about blindness services for older adults with an acquired vision loss. This May, we were also in the midst of a federal budget that suggested cutting some 11 million people off of Medicaid. Several years ago, when I worked for a nonprofit, the director at the time, a former lawyer who himself was blind, presented testimony at the State House describing how vision rehabilitation services actually save taxpayers money. He explained, for example, how an older person with an acquired vision loss later in life might assume that they need the services of an assisted living or nursing home if they could no longer cook, shop, or manage their medications independently. This is often the thinking that comes with the loss of vision. I mean, after all, if you've had good vision your whole life, you generally have no idea how these things can be done independently with reduced vision or no vision at all. So, how much does the nursing home cost Medicaid per year? $100,000, $120,000 more? Okay. What's the salary of a vision rehabilitation therapist, also called a VRT, whose job it is to teach adapted daily living skills like shopping, cooking, and medication management for people with a vision loss? Well, that's about $65,000 a year. And of course, the VRT will not be spending their entire time with just one client. They might see a client 1 or 2 hours a week over a series of weeks to provide the needed vision rehab training. So, which is cheaper? The nursing facility or 40 hours of adapted daily living training with a VRT to remain independent in the home? Well, of course, it's less expensive for adapted daily living skills training with the VRT. And ironically, the cheaper solution, some vision rehabilitation training, is also the one that most people want. They want to remain independent in their own home. Unfortunately, the less expensive solution is also the one that in nearly all cases is the more difficult to find. Why? Well, because there are very few VRTs, less than 600 nationally, and only about 3,000 orientation and mobility specialists nationally. Now, these are the professionals who teach similar daily living skills related to independent outdoor travel with a vision loss. And here's the biggest kicker: Medicaid, Medicare, and private insurance don't cover either of their services. So as a result, nearly all services for vision rehabilitation therapists and orientation and mobility specialists are funded through either the Veterans Administration, the Rehabilitation Services Administration, called RSA, which is part of the Department of Education, or private pay, out of pocket. The upside of the federal RSA funding is that this permits state agencies to provide vision rehab services at no cost to clients or on a reduced sliding scale. Now, the downside is that funding is woefully inadequate, and funding has not been increased in years. Additionally, many states do such a poor job utilizing RSA funding that it never gets to clients in the form of meaningful services and has to be returned to the federal government for redistribution at the end of the year. For an example, check out the article in the Atlanta Constitution on services in Georgia July 25th, 2024, titled How a Broken Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency Failed Disabled People. And sadly, Georgia is not an outlier in terms of mismanagement of rehab services. In addition to the mismanagement of RSA funding in some states, the overall pool of money for rehab services for the older individuals who are blind program is totally inadequate at some $33.3 million annually. This is sufficient to fund services for only 3% of adults with a vision loss, or 3 out of 100 adults. Sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? Well, there are several things that you can do to advocate for positive change. First, if the senator or Congress representative in your state voted for a budget that reduces Medicaid, call their office and demand it not be cut. And here's the phone number, 202-224-3121. Again, that's 202-224-3121, and just ask for your state's representative. Second, when you have Second, when you have them on the phone, remind them that there is proposed legislation called Teddy Joy's Law that will increase the funding for the Older Individuals Who Are Blind program, OIB, part of the RSA funds. Lastly, remind them that the most qualified, nationally certified vision rehab professionals like vision rehabilitation therapists and orientation and mobility specialists are not currently covered by Medicaid or Medicare. Covering these services will save taxpayers money in the long run and help people with a vision loss live more independently. So, one more time, here's the phone number to call your senator or congressional representative. That's 202-224-3121. So do it now. Be a force for positive change and make some phone calls. Thanks so much for tuning in today to the Vision Rehab Podcast. I really look forward to you joining me in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, please email me at lowvisiontech@gmail.com, and that's spelled LOWV as in Victor, ISIONTECH@gmail.com, or visit lowvisiontech.com, and have a terrific day.